Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Welcome to this episode of the Insane Prospecting webinar, 24th of January, 2023. The last one I did, when looking at the recording, saw that I said 2003, and I just edited that out. So if you watch the recorded version of that, you may wonder why it began so abruptly. I said, welcome to date 2003. It was quite funny watching it in retrospect. It sounded like it was recorded all those years ago. Anyway, I got it right this morning, 24th of January, 2023. And look, I'm wearing the Insane Prospecting cap. I have a cupboard full of these things, and one lucky arriver at my office got one of these, and they were strategically given out to some other people, clients, and so on. So you may see them circulating the prospecting world of financial planning. I hope you do, because it's branding, and that's why I'm wearing it today. Not only branding, but look, I've got orange here and I've got orange there on the Success Coaching logo. Just to put any confusion to bed, Success Coaching is the coaching business. It's private and business coaching. A lot of the clients of which are financial planners and financial planning businesses. Insane Prospecting is really just a brand and a suite of services that I own. I do pay a lot of attention to it. I build content for it. But everything I do has a coaching approach to it. So although this is Insane Prospecting for financial planners, as you will know, if you've spent any time with a brand, everything has a coaching nuance to it, because I believe that coaching supports people to grow and develop. But there's also a parallel between coaching and financial planning, and the way that you show up in front of your clients and prospective clients when wrapped in a coaching way of being has its advantages to it. That being said, I've got Success Coaching on my door to my office over here. In the next 2 weeks or so, you might see something replacing it on the webinar, just to give the office a bit of a new, fresh look and give the webinar some branding. So I look forward to sharing that with you. It will certainly brighten up the room, I can assure you of that, and do away with that olive look. So I can see that I'm quite shadowed wearing this cap. I was thinking of turning it around and doing the backwards cap thing. It makes me feel and look a lot younger. My birthday is coming up this coming Saturday, so I have to do whatever I can to feel a bit younger. Although I feel young. I feel young, probably a lot younger than I am, which is good. It keeps me going, right? But the backside of the cap has some generic branding, so we're going to stick with this. Apologies for the shadow on the face. I'm sure it will be okay. All right, a random pick of things today, but before we get into the agenda at hand, I just want to run a few things by you. The first is that I'm sorry that this has not been advertised on the website. So you're used to logging onto the website, going to webinar and seeing the invitations with the click-throughs months in advance. I haven't done that yet. So for those of you who have joined me live, well, you've got your way of doing that, and thank you. You figured that out. And everyone else will be watching the recorded version of this either through the website or on YouTube. I will put this one on YouTube just so that it is accessible to many more people. Those invitations on the website and the click-throughs have been designed, so they will be going up sooner rather than later. I'm not committing to any particular date. There's a lot else going on that's unfortunately getting in my way right now. And the one I want to share with you, it's not officially in skywriting just yet, but I'm speaking about it openly. But David Kopp and I are launching FI Consult on the 14th of March. FI, Financial Institution, the acronym replacing FSP. So FI Consult is a consultancy business into financial services, working with financial planning businesses to help them grow. Mostly successful, or on the way to successful, it's a relative term. So let's say mostly established financial planning businesses that have hit some kind of a glass ceiling and want help taking their business to the next level. We'll be launching this thing on a modular basis, so companies can pick and choose which themes they want to work with while we flesh out the entire menu of services. But also the majority of the work will at the same time be on retainer. So we will be in your business, working on your business with the themes that we put up and present, but also generally speaking, we are the objective, outsourced, experienced team that can help your financial planning business grow. Any expertise that we don't have across the two of us, we outsource all services. We have contributors, we have collaborators, we have associates. And together with us, we will all be working in your business and on your business to help you grow. So that's where I've been spending a lot of my time. Just to remind you, the mini bootcamp launched last year, the mini bootcamp. The big bootcamp will only happen twice a year, and it's a full day event, 10 hours, which is grueling. The Red Bulls come out at 3 o'clock and other energy drinks and things that don't have so much sugar and guarana and caffeine, but keep you boosted. But the mini bootcamp is very different, and it filled a niche for those that don't want to take an entire day off or can't take an entire day off, or for those businesses that want to put their people on a boot camp that's affordable for many, because they want to put a group of people on it. The minimum is 8. They want to do it in their offices. So this is what the mini boot camp is. It's a 4-hour session for businesses who want to put their financial advisors on a prospecting boot camp. It's in your office anywhere in the country, as long as I'm given enough notice. There's some pre-work leading up to the event. There's a lot of work on the day. It's uncomfortable. It will move you out of your comfort zone, but it will help you to build the capacity to go out there and prospect. If you're a business owner, give it some thought, be it a director or someone in leadership or a franchise principal or even agency, it doesn't matter. It speaks to anyone that has the need to get in front of potential new clients to do financial planning and provide financial advice. Okay. There's a nice video on the website getting some more detail, but bottom line, get in contact with me, hello@insaneprospecting.co.za. All right, and then just a reminder, the flagship course that is Insane Prospecting is the 27-module online course. You go onto the website, you swipe your credit card, so to speak, and the first 21 modules are the work, and the following 6 modules are the support to help you when you implement that plan that you come up with in the first 21 modules. And the good news, still offering 25 CPD points. 25 CPD points. What else gives you 25 CPD points? It's a lot of work, but it's more than the course. I mean, it's more than the boot camps. The boot camps will give you something to go out there, but on a non-sustained basis. In other words, you haven't built the capacity within yourself to do it on an ongoing basis. Just module 2, or in module 2 of the course, I give you 101 ways of getting in front of potential new clients across 15 categories. Where else does that happen? Okay, so you get it. The combination of the course and the boot camp, whichever boot camp, would be perfect. Ideally, you want to do the full day boot camp, probably in April. Still needs to be planned. Okay, let's get on with the agenda today. I spent some time with a consultancy client yesterday, working with some of their new recruits, and some interesting thoughts arose, some interesting conversation was had. The discussions were good. Every now and then we broke into somewhat of a debate, but I really enjoyed the conversation. I had some insights of my own, which I'm going to bring through to this, maybe some LinkedIn posts and some other social posts. But I'm just going to ask a question. It's the most generic question. It's the reason why Insane Prospecting exists. And the question is, how do I get new clients, right? By the way, that's a true story. Is for 7 years, while I was independently consulting 2 financial planning businesses and financial planners before creating Success Coaching and the Insane Prospecting brand, during that time, the most common question I was ever asked was, how do I get new clients? Which is what led to the formation and origination of Insane Prospecting. So I'm going to respond to that question directly, because normally what I do is I go around and I go, well, that's a great question. Take the course, follow the social media, take the boot camp. But I'm going to respond to it quite directly today. Also can't give everything away, not because I don't want to. Trust me, I'm more than happy to give things away because there's so much more to give away. So I'm not holding on to anything. If you want to go deep, take the course, right? Okay, but what I'm going to do is respond directly. How do I get more slow down, Jason. How do I get more clients? How do I get more of the clients I want? Very simple. Get in front of potential new clients. And that's what Insane Prospecting is about, getting in front of potential new clients. There's other collateral that speaks about what to do when you're in front of potential new clients. And by the way, if you haven't seen my 8th of December webinar on the FPI Learn Tech website, you've got to take a look at that, because there I spend an hour throwing so much stuff at what to do when you get in front of potential new clients. Okay, but how do you get new clients? Well, You got to get in front of potential new clients. So how do you get in front of people? And this is where we start to get into it. How do you start to get in front of new people? First of all, you need a strategy. And believe me, you don't have to take a 27 module course to come up with a strategy. You just have to come up with a strategy. You have had ideas. You've implemented ideas. If you just sit down for 5 minutes and think about it, think about ways that you can get in front of new people. You will come up with a handful of ways. You go into your office, you get on a call with one of your colleagues, and you go, how do I get in front of potential new clients? How do I get in front of people that could be new clients? They will come up with ideas. Between you and them, I promise you that you will come up with a number of ideas that have or have not been attempted by you or them before. It doesn't matter whether they have or have not been attempted. They are ideas. That's the point. The idea is the strategy. The strategy is the thing that you do to get you in front of potential new clients. And that's how easy it is to come up with a strategy. Yes, in the course, I give 101 strategies over 15 categories, but you don't need the course and that module to come up with 1 or 2 or 3 yourself. I just go really, really wide to make you think much more expansively, and then you can narrow down to those 1, 2, or 3, which is what in the course I encourage you to do anyway, because you're not going to work with 101 strategies. You're going to work with 1, 2, or 3. Right. Now that you have a strategy, you need a plan. And I'm not working on mindset here at all. Just forget about mindset today. I'm not working on your capacity to show up as the person you need to be to build the business you want to build. I'm just talking theoretically and superficially about what you need to do to get new clients. Okay, so come up with a strategy, you devise a plan, and then you kick off. You take that plan and you work that plan. Now, very important at this point is that you need to track what you do, because you're usually in action around a lot of activity in pursuit of your objectives with the plan that you devised around the strategy that you came up with. So you have to track your activity. Let's imagine you just spoke to 100 people yesterday. For whatever reason, you spoke to 100 people. Maybe you had a slot, you got up in front of an audience, you had 5 minutes, you spoke to 100 people. So what are you going to do about that? Hope that they all come to you, line up at the door, and your administrative team can track everything for you. That's a utopia. That's a fantasy. It's probably not going to happen. So you got your strategy, you got your plan, you're in action around that, but you need to track and follow up on everything that you do, every person you speak to, every conversation that you have. Because if you're not tracking them, you're not following up, then they will be lost. Believe me, the success in doing this is more up to you than it is up to them. You can leave the ball in your potential client's court, but it's up to you to follow up. Not only is it up to you from a business development point of view or a sales point of view or even an advice point of view, but it becomes a responsibility. Because if the conversation that you had or the presentation that you did resulted in piqued interest by a potential client, then you have a responsibility to respond to that because they have a need. That need could be something incredibly important that, if not attended to, not planned around, not implemented, could have dire results should something happen to them. You know what I'm saying? Okay. The next thing is relentless pursuit. Relentless pursuit. I said it's up to you, but the pursuit has to be relentless. I can throw in the responsibility that you have once again, because if someone gets cancer between the time that you had the conversation about critical illness or risk and the time that you meet again, it's your fault. To a large degree, it's your fault. This is what I was saying to the group that I met with yesterday. And I made the point very strongly, is that you have a duty, a responsibility, and an obligation to follow up on the conversation that you had and do everything that you humanly can to ensure that your potential client is taken care of without delay in case something happens. So again, it's not only from a sales or an advice point of view, it's from a responsibility point of view. Relentlessly pursue this business. And that means that you go until you hear a yes or a no. Yes, you go ahead, you proceed with the business. No, it's done. Okay, it's not a no until it's a no. It's not a no until it's a no. Keep going until you hear a yes or a no. If it's not a no, it's a maybe, and a maybe can turn into a yes. You may protract this over a period of time, and that's fine. Because if you're doing all that you can to pursue this potential client, and it takes 6 months, that's fine. There are many stories of big deals, whatever that means, whether it's advice, a plan, risk, investment, taking up to a year and a half. One of my biggest deals when I was working for a global organization took a year and a half. Yes, it was investment based, but I relentlessly pursued. And it was one of the biggest deals of my lifetime at that point, but it took a year and a half. Okay. That's how you get new clients. Right. The next thing, have what you sell. And this is something that came up at the end of the conversation that we had yesterday. I was speaking to a group of people about a certain thing, the space that they play in within financial planning. And it occurred to me that they don't have what they sell. So let's take, for example, let's keep it really, really simple. Like you specialize in medical aid. So I know this is all about financial advice, more so financial planning. There's a lean in the insane prospecting world of conversation toward financial planning. But in the world of financial advice, selling a medical aid is giving financial advice. It's just very niche, very specialist. So I'm going to use that as an example because it's simple, easy to understand, and we can deal with it for the purpose of the message that I wish to communicate right now. So if you sell medical aid, by the way, my medical aid person only does medical aid, and I consider her an advisor. Okay, so you sell medical aid, but you don't have medical aid. How can you sell it? How can you be passionate about the need for private medical care in South Africa if you don't have medical aid yourself? You need to do whatever you can to get onto a private medical aid. Whatever you can. You need to demonstrate to yourself that you understand the need to be on a private medical aid. That you've done it, you've experienced it from a patient or client's perspective. You're not selling the thing that your clients experience, but you've never experienced it. You've never experienced the need to go to a hospital, the need to claim, the experience of a claim, dealing with people, the confusion between what's covered, what's not, the product, the competition, what you have to do, what you mustn't do. You have to have what you sell. Let's move away from that example of a medical aid. You're a financial planner. Do you have a financial plan? You're offering a financial plan to your clients. Have you created a financial plan for yourself? Do you have a financial advisor? Because you're telling your clients that they need a financial advisor and that financial advisor is you. But do you have a financial advisor? A coach needs a coach. Everyone needs someone. Yes, an architect may design their own home, but they lose objectivity because they play in a particular space. They work to themes. If they want an objective design, maybe they want to go to a fellow architect to get something different, even if it's just perspective, so then they can go and draft the thing. But if you're a financial planner, again, moving away from the medical aid example, do you have a financial plan? Do you have a financial planner that can give you objective advice? Have you experienced objective financial planning advice? Have you implemented some financial planning advice based on the recommendations of a financial planner? Because that is what you are advising your clients to do. You're advising your clients to implement financial planning advice and recommendations based on what you've given them. Have you done that? Have you experienced it? Do you know how it feels? Have you had the conversation about your future and your planning with someone else? Because you're asking your clients to have it with you. What does that feel like? What are the emotions that you experience? What are you thinking? What are the risks? What are the exciting experiences around this? You have to have what you sell. Okay. Two other things that we spoke about yesterday, which I'm bringing through to this webinar today, are opening a conversation and closing a conversation. Now, all I'm doing is I'm using those themes as a lead into what I'm talking about today. Yesterday, my group that I was working about, it was very specific and it wasn't built for a webinar. So I'm taking the idea of opening a conversation. Did I say closing a conversation? Not closing. We're not talking about closing a conversation today. In the course and everywhere else, there's a big amount of time spent on bridging the conversation from one to the other. Okay, I'm not going to spend time there. I'm talking about opening a conversation once you're in front of a potential client. Once you're in front, look for more detail in the 8th of December Learn Tech FPI webinar. But I'm just talking about that moment where you're in front of people and you need to create a conversation. Where that conversation goes and how good you get at going deep with your client so that you can eventually have a financial planning conversation and move him or her to becoming a client. For example, That's dealt with elsewhere and even here, just not today. Okay, so I'm talking about opening a conversation and continuing a conversation when you get stuck. So great, you've opened it, you're chit-chatting, you even dabbling with financial planning conversation, asking questions from their past, questions about their current, their future, leaning on Mitch Anthony's repository of questions, all of those. But there's more. Okay, so let's divide them up. The first is opening a conversation. I'm going to keep it simple and talk about 3 things today. Just 3 things, because the reality is you probably only need 3. You don't need more than 3 to open a conversation. So I'm going to share something that I use in my coaching space, which I never used in financial planning, but I believe that when I was client facing as a financial planner, if I had used this as an opening to the conversation, it would have been incredibly powerful. The question is, and by the way, these are all questions. All questions. You want to open and you want to continue, you ask questions. Okay, question, question, question. You can even play the model like position, question, clarify. Just remember, ask questions and open-ended questions. So this is the question that I ask a potential coaching client. And remember, there's a huge parallel between coaching and financial planning in structure and concept. What would make this an amazing conversation for you? You can even mix it up a little bit by removing a bit of the emotion around the word amazing and making it more practical and using the word useful. Dear Mr. Potential Client, what would make this a useful conversation for you? Sit back, be quiet, listen to the answer. Okay, and then one of the examples, and this is probably the one that I used the most and almost wrapped it and delivered that yesterday, is tell me about ... After the ellipsis, you can do anything. Tell me about your life. Tell me about your business. Tell me about your family. Tell me about your experience with financial planning. Tell me about your financial plan. Tell me about your financial advisor. Tell me about why we're here today having this conversation. Tell me about you. Tell me about 3 of the most powerful words you can use in opening a conversation with a potential client. In continuing a conversation, I'm going to give you the 2 most powerful words that you can use. Okay, sticking with opening a conversation, I'll give you one more. It's very different because the first one is what would make this an amazing or useful. The second one is tell me about. The third is very different to those 2, but you can use it at some point. And it's more finite in a way. If you could have just one single question answered today, what would that be? If you could have just one single question answered today, what would that be? Again, sit back, be quiet, give the client or potential client time and space to breathe and to think. Be comfortable with the silence. Don't worry about the gap in conversation. That gap is powerful. Let it be. Your client will come back to you with a response to the question. Okay, let's move on to continuing the conversation. Now, this is typically where you get stuck in the conversation. You don't know where to go. It becomes uncomfortable. Sometimes you speed up because of your discomfort. So you want to close the gap. You want to eradicate the silence, which is the opposite of what you need to do. You need to, like in the previous section of opening a conversation, you need to be comfortable with the silence. Trust me, the discomfort is only on your side, it's not the client's. But all that being said, in continuing the conversation, it's around your way of being. It's less about doing, because the doing is simple. The doing is by still asking questions. But your way of being is what will help you to continue the conversation when you get stuck in the conversation. Your being has to be around curiosity. If you are curious around who this client is and what's going on for this client, then you will know what questions to ask. I say that as the way of being, and I hold that to be true, but I would assert to add to that way of being an objective. Like with any meeting or conversation or business communication or engagement like this, you need to have an objective. And an example of a relevant, appropriate, practical objective for a meeting or a conversation like this is to get the client to a yes. A yes, let's proceed. A yes, let's move ahead. Let's do this business. Let's embark on the financial planning journey. Yes, let's sign the service level agreement. Yes, let me provide you with my personal financial information. Yes, yes, yes. So when you get stuck in conversation and you wish to continue it, reflect on your objective, which is we are having this conversation to get to the point of a yes from the client, plus your way of being around curiosity. Be curious, because that will allow you to continue to ask the questions that you need to ask. So the first question is the one that I spoke about just now, where I said it's 2 words and it is so powerful. Those words are, what else? That's all. Client's talking, client finishes talking, you don't know what to say. You get stuck. Maybe there's a bit of panic, your heart races, funny feeling in the stomach, palm sweat. You don't know. Just ask, what else? You can even ask it again and again, because then you start peeling away the layers and going deeper. What else? What else? What else? The client's talking about his or her business or their family or whatever it is. What else? Again, sit comfortably with the silence, give them the space and time to be and to think, and they will talk. If they come back with nothing, that's okay. Then you can move on to the other questions. But remember that you can ask what else a number of times. Okay, other questions. Is there anything else that I need to know? Is there anything else that I need to know? Maybe you want to go with, is there anything else that you feel you need to tell me? You want to get to a point where you've gathered some information where you can move the client to saying yes. You can even reverse it and come around the other way and ask something like, what have you not told me? Because this is everything you've told me. We've been speaking for a while. I've been asking you some questions. You've been giving me some answers. But what have you not told me? And the client will go through other questions in his head, like, yeah, what have I not told you about my life or my business or my insurance or my financial planning or what I have or what I don't have? I don't know. And maybe that's a conversation in itself. What do you mean? What have I not told you? Well, let's talk about what I mean by what have you not told me? And then we'll figure it out, because you haven't told me. And then you'll tell it to me. And if you've told me everything, then we move on to more questions. And here's a cheeky one. I say cheeky from my perspective as a coach. I sometimes ask this question. I never ask it in a cheeky way ever, because it's usually asked in a serious moment. But you can play with it and begin with it from a cheeky perspective. And when you learn to work with it, you can ask it from a more serious perspective. If you like, play with it any way you want. The question is, what do you not want me to know? You might think that's a rubbish question, makes no sense. Why would someone even tell me something they don't want me to know? Well, sometimes they do and sometimes they don't. Ask the question. I had a client many years ago, a financial planning client, who there was just something he wasn't telling me. And I can't remember my repertoire of questions at that time, but I did hack away because there was something he wasn't telling me. And it turned out that although he was engaged to be married, he was having an affair with a woman in a nearby town, suburb, it was 30 kilometers away, with whom he had a baby, and he was housing the woman and the baby without the knowledge of his fiance. That had serious consequences on his financial planning, as you can imagine. Don't be afraid to ask the questions. Another one is, what do you really want? I'm assuming that the question, what do you want, has come up at some time. But if you get stuck, you can go, what do you really want? The word really can be put in front of other words every now and then. What do you really want? Is this really important to you? Is this really what it's about? Really, really, really. Probably a little bit further down the road of stuckness in conversation when you wish to continue. If you don't know what to say or where to go, ask the client. Where do we go from here? Where do you think we should go from here? Another version is, how do you want to take it from here? Literally, not literally, figuratively, put the ball in the client's court. Where do you think we should go in here? Here's the ball. You take it. Where do you want to go from here? Where should we take the conversation right now? What should we talk about next? Do you have any questions for me? Again, assuming that you're a bit further down the conversational road, check in. What are your thoughts? Do you have any insights? What's your biggest takeaway so far? And then you can ask them, what do you think the next step should be? We've had this conversation. You're stuck. You really don't know what the next step should be. Like, should we, shouldn't we? Are we close to a yes? Mr. Client, what do you think the next step should be? Ask the question. How are we doing for time? Okay. That's a lot. I've just given away a lot of stuff that you can use in conversation. If you didn't get it all down, if you're watching this live, go to the recording. It'll be posted. Today's Tuesday. It'll be posted by the end of tomorrow. You'll see it on YouTube. You'll see it on the Insane Prospecting website. Listen to this again and write them all down. Practice them over and over and over and over and over. Don't keep them on a piece of paper. Just say them to yourself out loud or to other people or to a wall or to a photograph of a friend. Just say them over and over and over so that when you're in the situation, they just come. You have to embed them in your brain so that when you're in the situation, your brain can link stuck solution, silence question. Okay. I'm going to leave it at that for today. Those of you who are live with me, thank you for being here. I'm going to say goodbye to those watching the recording. Live attendees, please hang back for Q&A. I'll stay on for the usual 5 to 10 minutes. Any questions, any statements, any discussion, let's chat. Those of you who are watching the recorded version, thank you for being here one way or another. I will see everyone in a week.